also been some failures.
Why are these targets chosen? What is a targeted individual? I know that we've talked about the Civil War, and we know that it was obviously very racist, and that's why the KKK came forward. But today, I know my perpetrators use a lot of voice to skull and things like that, and they call me a black lover, a Jew lover. They told me to denounce Christ. What are the reasons? What are the main reasons that these people are coming forward? And why are so many people being targeted?
The general reason for a given individual can be one of three primary reasons. The great overwhelming majority of them fall into the last category I'll mention. The first category would be perhaps guinea pigs. When a new technique is being developed, somebody will be selected who has a particular psychological profile for which that particular technique is designed. And so that person will become a hapless guinea pig. And there'll probably be others, they'll probably take, say, 100 people and apply it as a test so they can get some good statistical results and work to fine-tune that technology. Then that's kind of rare. Generally because as new technologies come online, as often as not, they have other ways of testing them that don't require fresh victims. They can take somebody who's already targeted for some other cause, and it's a little bit easier for them to just immediately play with the new technology with them. The second category would be persons who are true national security, quote-unquote, victims. That is to say, it's somewhat of an official targeting by some element of the government, typically, let's say, CIA or some other nefarious initial set of covert operatives. And I use the quotes around national security simply because that's usually the reason given. It's not necessarily at all the reality. It is all too easy for someone who has the power and authority to wield such weapons to simply say this is a matter of national security, and everybody jumps to attention and starts following orders. The third category is the biggest category, and it's what I call, for lack of a better term, reducing the person to a political zero. Usually it's someone who knows something. They don't generally even know they know it. They've seen something, they overheard something, they came into possession of a document, whatever the reason, they become targeted because of that. Somebody fears what might happen should they come to an understanding of what it is they heard, saw, or read. This is how I came to be targeted when I was first targeted. I came into possession of a document, and I made the mistake of letting somebody know that I had it. And so I became feared, and it took me something like 10 years of warfare with the various folks that were causing me great discomfort until I finally figured out what it was that they feared and who feared it. And then I was able to leverage an insurance policy to effect a peace treaty between us, so to speak. I even managed to get some reparations out of it. And that's what I seek when I'm working with clients, is to try to find a way to find out what it is that is causing them to be targeted. And once we know that, we can usually figure out some sort of a solution.
I get a lot of phone calls, and I do a lot of interviews. And while we talk about individual cases and uncovering documents and other secrets and whistleblowing, I'm getting calls from all over the world. Literally all over the world, and victims are popping up every day, every age, every race, every religion. Many people have said that they believe this is a New World Order agenda, and that we might be moving towards a fascist USA, a fascist world, a one-world government. What do you think of that? Do you think that's possible?
I am very convinced that that's absolutely the driving force. In my book, MC Realities, I actually go backwards in time, tracing the evolution of political control technology, which, is a more polite term for mind control, really. And if we go all the way back, we can start at the Garden of Eden, because the very first form of disinformation was used by the serpent to get Eve to sample the apple. and then to convince her to do the same, to get Adam to sample it. She in turn used this information on him. So she was really acting under the serpent's mind control. So we could trace it back, and pretty much all of the evolutionary players, if you go back and follow the players historically, we find that they're almost always tied in some way to Satanism. And Satanism has really one primary archenemy, which is Christianity. So Satanism is really the only religious, if we want to call it religious, entity which has an arch enemy. And its sole purpose of Satanism is to destroy Christianity. And the reason why, of course, is at some point it hopes to seat the Antichrist. And that brings us to really answering your question. The evolution of political control technology has been to empower the New World Order and a one-world government, which would allow, therefore, the seating of the Antichrist, because the Antichrist can only take the throne of a one-world government. And is it a fascist model? Absolutely. Or military police state? Absolutely. These are the tools by which totalitarian governments thrive. And in fact, if you follow the original or early attempts of establishing a one-world government, or at least a one-world power base, we would go back to, say, the Knights Templar. And if you follow them forward, you would end up in the Masonic lodges. You would also find yourself looking at the Illuminati, and the modern-day counterparts of those are the Skull and Bones and so forth and so on, which leave us endless little covert, secretive groups that can work their magic and put people into positions of power. And fundamentally, all of those people are fascist in nature. Fascism is really a term itself that's misunderstood. It's really a form of government that is for or supports a corporate state. And if we look at the definitive New World Order as defined by the Illuminati in their original writings, we see that it is a corporate state that they seek, where basically it's a global plantation. The only purpose for having people in the global plantation is you have to have somebody who produces the goods, and you have to have somebody who purchases the goods. And the only other duty they have is to do what they're told, and not step out of line and not be free thinkers. Because it's from that which you have protests. You know, in every historical society, every nation has risen and fallen. And the reason is because they have a pendulum-type swing in terms of their political stance. They're either a very free nation and they swing towards a police state, or they start off as a police state and they swing towards being a free nation. And we take the United States and the Soviet Union, we have both examples. And eventually they cross the line and become what it is they had originally opposed. And the reason is, if you have too much freedom, then the fascists need to undermine and work to get more control. And on the other hand, if you have too much control, the people work and undermine to foster freedoms. So it's a very natural evolution. But the fascists know that if you have political control technology, you can circumvent the cause of the people, and you can foster the cause of the fascists.
Did a lot of this stem from Operation Paperclip when the Nazi scientists and psychologists came over here? In many of my interviews, and from emails that I've received, people believe that the infiltration of the United States began with Operation Paperclip after World War II.